Continuing the derivation, so now I look at my formula. So let's analyze our formula. Well, our equation is expressed always in terms of the number of assets. However, we end up here with this component, with the futures price that is expressed in terms of the number of futures. So what would be really desirable is that I could somehow rewrite this equation in terms of the number of assets. So is there a way to hide this number of futures and somehow rewrite it in terms of the futures of the number of assets? Well, yes, there's a way. So we know the notion of hedge ratio. So we know what the hedge ratio is. So we know the hedge ratio. The hedge ratio. And remember from class, the hedge ratio is given by, so H, the hedge ratio, is given by the number of futures divided by the number of assets. So let's look again at my formula. So I will just copy down here my formula. Y equals S1 NA plus NA delta S minus delta F NF. Okay, let's look again at our formula. I have here NF, well, NF is here as well, but I don't have NA. NA is missing in my formula, so what do? Well, I want this quantity to be divided by the number of assets, and of course, if I am dividing this quantity by the number of assets, if I'm introducing this quantity in the equation, I have to take it out. And I have to take it out by making the inverse operation, so by multiplying by the number of assets. So these two here give 1. So what we introduce, we always need to remove. And as you can see that now I have the number of futures, and now I also have the number of assets. So I am able to express here this quantity as my hedge ratio, as H. So let's rewrite the formula. So now we have Y equals to S1 NA plus NA delta S minus delta F H and the number of assets. And now I look again at my formula and I see that I can also simplify it. So again, if we look at the formula, we see that we have here the number of assets and again the number of assets. So we can factorize the formula. If I factorize here this piece of the equation, I will end up with, so NA goes out and we write it in terms as a difference between delta S and delta FH. Do not forget the H. Many people forget the H in this step. So, and this guy here just comes directly, just a copy. So again, we introduced the notion of hedge ratio. So we introduced the notion of hedging, so hedging risk, okay. We introduced the notion of hedge ratio in order to simplify our equation. So we were able to express here, or end up with, two very important terms, which I will explain in the next video.